Good evening here on the Central Riverhawks YouTube channel. I'm Joel McCall. Alongside me is Mitch Olson, and he is the head coach for the Central Riverhawks football team. Central coming off the win of 15-8 over Sparta last Friday. They're 7-1 overall and 5-1 in the MVC. Coach Olson, thank you so much for joining me. Always do appreciate your time.
Happy to be here, Joel.
Well, let's talk about that Sparta game. It was 7-0 at halftime. What a physical, grueling type of a contest that was last Friday.
It was. We were thinking about it after the game just as a staff, and we've had just some doozies there over the years. So it's anytime you play in Sparta, it seems like, things don't necessarily go according to plan or sort of how you saw it going down. So we're just happy to get out of there with a W.
I could understand that. And that's how Nami put it too. That type of a game is just get the win and get on the bus. And that's pretty much what happened. The first quarter, first half was a lot of picks by the Central Riverhawks. In fact, 3 of them, one by Jones, Pulma at the end of the halftime, and then George with the big one. And between those two, because he ran all the way down to the 1 yard line for Central. That was with about 4:06 left in the second quarter. That's when Sparta got it at their own 38. I had plays of 18 and 9, but then they got backed up because of their penalties. That was a lot of their issues too, was their penalties, kind of self-inflicted at times, but you guys certainly took over. What a play Zach George made.
Yeah, there was a lot of, both them and us, just some self-inflicted stuff that really didn't allow teams to get momentum going. But yeah, Zach made a heck of a play. I was really hoping that he would score, and the whole time he's running, I'm just thinking, if this goes, he's gonna get snaps at D tackle, because told him last week it's the only position he hasn't played is defensive tackle. And I told him if he got a pick 6, we'd find a way to have him play D tackle. So I don't know if he just didn't want to play D tackle or what it really was, why he decided to step out at the 1 there, but it was a good play.
Yeah, it sure was. Jones also made a great play when Laufenberg overshot his man, and then Pulma at the end, kind of that just heave up towards the end zone, and or I guess it's about the middle of the field. Really wasn't towards the end zone, but it was still a good play by Pulma. And the second half, then you guys got it first. Really was held to a 3 and out, but then Brigham fumbled the punt return, and then that was recovered by Pulma. You guys had a really nice drive going after that. Ended up with a field goal, but that a field goal attempt, but that was blocked. Can you take me through that a little bit? Did you guys see that on film of what ended up happening on the field goal?
It was just off the right hash, and the high school hashes are extended a little bit. You always teach them, hey, protect that inside gap first. So, just the trajectory of the ball, you've got a lot better shot at getting to the ball from that side. We'll have to, just make sure our process there was a little bit slow. We didn't get it off quite as quick as we wanted. But Sparta kid made a good play.
Yeah, I sure did. And then that allowed them to come back. They had their drive that scored. Plays of 9, 8, 7, 15, ended up scoring on their 8th play of that drive, 4 yards out from Laufenberg. There was an offside penalty on the PAT, which moved the ball up to the 1, and then Sparta went for 2. You guys came back. Central had a big play, 28 yards during their drive right before the end of the third quarter, but really your defense came up huge again after the offensive side had the turnover on downs. Sparta got it back right at the beginning of the fourth quarter, but right away a punt, 3 and out.
Yeah, and defensively, we played okay. There were parts of that game that were a little frustrating. There were some things that we could have handled better. But all in all, I think that we played just well enough on both sides of the ball.
Well, the game-winning drive happened to be at 10-17 is when it started. Had the ball at your own 47, I think it was, or somewhere around there. Plays of 12, 17, and then the big play 13. Alvarado, that particular play Man, he had a lot of time. The offensive line did a great job on that. I know he kind of moved in within the pocket, but never really had to scramble for it. Looked up, found Poma, great throw, great catch. But I really attributed a lot of that to that offensive line, allowing Alvarado some time.
Yeah, the offensive line is playing really well in their pass blocking. And Jude has gotten much better as the years gone on too, with just, having a presence within the pocket and being comfortable in the pocket. He's a good athlete, so you don't want to tell him, hey, you can't scramble, you can't get out of the pocket, but he's doing a really good job, just sitting in the pocket and giving some things a little bit of time to develop. And then, when he needs to, he can still buy time with his feet. So he threw a great ball there. The protection was good up front. Things kind of broke down a little bit. And, I think you could just sort of see the chemistry of Aaron and Jude on display there on that touchdown.
Yeah, exactly. Turnover on downs for Sparta. You guys held it for a little bit and then end up having to punt, just trying to kill some time. That false start penalty obviously hurt you because it would have been second down, I think 9, something like that, and then had the -5. That kind of stalled that drive. I thought maybe that would be the game clincher right there, is to get maybe a first down or two. And as you said, there were self-inflicted wounds on both sides. And then Sparta, of course, the big sack right there with Luke Hansen put Sparta in a terrible position on their last drive. And then Stripmatter came up with a big INT and kind of sealed the deal.
Yeah. Yeah. Luke is really good when it's just, hey, go rush the passer. He's so athletic coming off the edge. Mike Eber also played a great game. We were hopeful on Friday that we would maybe get Caden upon and he would be ready to go. But he just needed a little bit more time before we can have him back. But those other two do a great job when they're in there. I know Peyton was kicking himself a little bit on the pick. He came running off the field. He said, "Oh shoot, coach, was it fourth down?" Yeah. So that's not a situation where we want to pick the ball. But at the same time, it's hard to blame the kid. It's hard to blame anybody. If there's a ball there and you can catch it, I mean, your natural instinct is going to be to want to catch it and not bat it down. So, situationally, and in that situation, it didn't hurt us with the time that was left on the clock. But in a different situation, that's something that could hurt us.
Yeah, I did think Sparta was actually going to use their final timeout and force you to do something. And I don't know why they didn't. I thought maybe there was enough time left. Maybe there wasn't, and we weren't going through the math correctly. I'm not sure.
They were out of timeouts. It was wrong on the scoreboard there.
Got it. That makes a lot more sense, because we were like, they could actually call a timeout. So that makes a lot more sense. Well, it ended up being 15-7. We should mention Christian Rudrud had the other touchdown for the Central Riverhawks. And of course, this week, Logan 3-5. They need a win to make the playoffs. They come off of a huge win, 49-14 over Holman. And I'm sure you've already watched some film on that and know a lot about the Logan Rangers and how important this game is to them as well as your own boys.
Yeah, it's the biggest game on our schedule every year. We still try to prepare for it and think about it like any other game. But the reality is that it is the biggest. The arc means something to us. It means something to a lot of people that graduated from Central and live on the south side. So we want to keep that. Logan's playing really, really well. Just watching the film from last week against Holman, they look like far and away the best team that we've played all year, with how they played last night or last Friday on both sides of the ball. So, their growth and just how much better they have gotten from the start of the year to the end of the year. It's wild. So they're so well coached. They've got a really good staff up there, and they've got talented kids. They do have some kids going both ways, but I think we're at a point in the season now where it's not as hot out. They don't wear down as much. So I think you can maybe see the difference a little bit that it makes for them having those guys fresher in on the field for the whole game. So they're a really, really good football team. But we're looking forward to the challenge.
Well, I know Johnny Lever, you could talk about him a little bit. Kid's such a special athlete.
Yeah. Great kid, tremendous athlete. Similar to some of our guys, he's a kid that could play baseball in college or football in college if he wanted. He's just a good all-around athlete. If he's not their leading receiver, I know that he's right there. In rushing, he's got a ton of rushing yards for them. He does everything. He's a competitor. He finds ways to win. He's just a really smart football player. It's fun to watch him play, except for when you are playing against them.
Right. Yeah, I completely agree with you on that. And as we mentioned, they need this win in order to make the postseason. They've had some tough losses too. They had a 1-point loss to Onalaska. All about that too. And just a 6-point loss to Toma too. So, I mean, they've had some really difficult losses in the conference, and their other 2 losses are actually non-conference, Memorial and North up in Eau Claire. So, well, you know where I'm going with this. Keys for the game on Friday.
We've got to take care of the 2-headed monster that is Johnny Lever and Bradley Check. They'll do the 2 quarterback system with them a little bit. And they just do a really good job of putting those 2 in positions where they're going to be successful. We got to make sure that we tackle well on both Johnny and Bradley Check. If we come up and try to tackle them high, they're just going to shake it off, or they're going to fall forward when we tackle them. So we've got to be physical. We've got to bring the fight to Logan and play downhill and just play super physical and understand that, it's going to be kind of a dogfight in the trenches a little bit at times with what Logan does. So I think that we need to control both of those 2 in the run game. And part of why their run game is so good too, the linemen don't get a lot of love, right? But they've got a kid, number 56, Christian Parcher. He plays on both sides of the ball, and he's one of the best offensive and defensive linemen that we have seen all year long. He doesn't come off the field much, and he's a game changer on both sides. So, he's physical, he's nasty, he plays with a little bit of an edge. We just got to make sure that we come with the correct mindset where we're ready for that. And I feel good about that. Offensively, hopefully we have everybody back this week, but we need to get the run game established. If we can run the ball successfully, that's just going to help us open stuff up for some of our receivers. Outside of that, we've got to take care of the football, both on offense and defense, Joel. So, we've got to find a way to force some turnovers, and then we've got to make sure that we don't put it on the ground. If we can do that, I like our chances.
The run game, I'm glad you mentioned it, because it's been tough sledding for Mr. Shepard here the last couple of weeks. Holman really keyed on him, and so did Sparta. And I know you had to use the outside a little bit more last week too. So hopefully we can see Shepard get to that second level and show off those speed and those wheels that he has. And I'm looking forward to it, Coach. This is going to be a fun one. I know Nami's all geared up for it, and he's got other special things he's doing on the YouTube channel that he wouldn't even tell me about. So I have no idea what he's planning for the week, but he's got some history lesson for us for Central versus Logan. And I'm excited. I'll be texting you for starters later in the week. And thanks again for all your information and your time, Coach. Really appreciate it.
You bet.
Coach Mitch Olson then for the Central Riverhawk football team. Our play-by-play for that is 7:00 on Friday for the football game. We do have the volleyball match that's coming up on Thursday as well. That's a home match, so we'll have the VR at 5:30, and the 7:00 is the first serve for Central versus Logan volleyball. We have more interviews coming up. Nami's got some stuff, as I mentioned, so be tuning in because there's a lot happening here on the Central Riverhawks YouTube channel.